Yo, guys, what's up, and welcome back to the Marvelous Chats podcast. This is episode 132. Tonight on the cast, we have myself, Finto, and Alex, aka Zebrewolf. We're going to be talking about XMEN97, episodes 9 and 10, which are the last two episodes of the first season. We're going to be talking about any other nerdy news that came up in the last 2 weeks since we haven't been live for 2 weeks. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button, smash a like on the video on your way out, and if you're watching us on a replay, leave us a comment below. Let us know what you think. Anyway, without further ado, here we go. Yo, what's up, brother?
Hey, how's it going, buddy?
Good, man. Good. Feel good about that intro, man. I fucking didn't skip a beat. It was great. Especially after a 2-week break as well.
Yeah.
It's a good start. It's going to be a good cast. How are you? How was the week? How was everything?
Good.
2 weeks.
Good. Yeah. Well, yeah. It's tough, man. Like whenever I'm on call, I feel bad because I'm like, I can't do it because it gets a little more hectic nowadays because they're always trying to advance things within the system.
Yeah.
And so if I'm on call and something goes down, it's like I can't just be talking here and then just like trying to work on the other thing.
Yeah. Red alarms going off and sites offline, and you're just here chatting. No, I fully understand, bro. I wouldn't be live here if I had to do anything for work. Like I fully understand. So, yeah, look, for anybody who's listening who doesn't know, Alex does some overtime work over the weekend, on call work. So there's weeks where the cast won't happen, or you could potentially see a cast if there's something happening where there might be somebody bar Alex. It's rare, I'd say, but it could happen. We could go live maybe like with a special guest or something down the line. Who knows? But most of the time, you're probably just going to see these two faces, or maybe a third. Well, who knows? Who knows? Yeah. So XMEN97, the last two episodes, we got that to talk about. I've kind of been jotting down a couple of notes on some stuff that's kind of happened over the last 2 weeks since we went live last, and maybe we can just kind of talk about X-Men first. I presume we're probably going to have quite a bit to talk about, and then we could just go into kind of shouting out some nerdy news, and if anybody in the chat wants to bring up some topics or whatever, happy to talk about them. But yeah, if I'm being honest, right, I'm just to kind of kick off the X-Men talk straight away. I'm having trouble distinguishing what happened in episode 9 and what happened in episode 10. So maybe we'll just kind of review the whole lot. Maybe just it might make a little more sense rather than trying to break down episode 9 and then break down episode 10, because I kind of won't remember, if I'm being honest. Now, if you do, by all means do, but just kind of, as we used to do it back in the day. But like, what did you think? Like, if you were to kind of rate it now that season 1 is finished, like how would you rate the show?
Honestly, man, I'd give it like a pretty damn high rating. I give it in the 9s, to be honest. Like, I really don't think that they've had any issues so far, like in the show itself. Like, I know most people didn't really favor episode 4, but I actually kind of liked it. It gave a little bit of a perspective on Jubilee and who she is and what she will be in the future, once she masters her powers a bit more.
Yeah.
But overall, like each episode, it just gets better and better. It's like it reaches this like crisp like cliffhanger that we all feel. And even so, like it's cliffhanger after cliffhanger after cliffhanger, which then like you get to the finale, and even after the finale, it's like, here's another cliffhanger. It's like, holy shit. Like you guys are really like pushing forward on this. And, of course we got a to be continued. I'm assuming you saw the post credits.
So usually what I do when I'm watching the episode, because most of the time I watch them when I'm in work on my lunch break. So I'm watching it in a web browser. And what I usually do is like, I'll scan my mouse across the end of the episode just to see if there's anything coming up. But I scanned the episode, but didn't see anything, because it was such a short little clip that when I scanned over it, I missed it. So I was actually watching the Den of Nerds doing a breakdown, and he started talking about it, and I was like, what the fuck? What did I miss? So I went straight back, and I was like, oh shit, okay, I missed that little bit. Like, so yeah, obviously to jump straight to the end, but yeah, it looks like Apocalypse is going to resurrect Gambit by the same side. Yeah. So yeah, dude, it's crazy. Like, high 9s, very high 9s, almost perfect 10. Like, I don't think anything is a perfect 10, but I think this is as close as it gets, especially considering it's an animation, in my opinion. Like, I think so many people have probably missed out on gold because a lot of the normie fans aren't watching it because it's a cartoon. You know, like and one of the topics I wanted to bring up, I may as well bring it up now because this has naturally happened. But the numbers for this show like didn't even register in like the Nielsen like top figures for most watch stuff, and that kind of tells you that, you know, not to downplay the quality of the show, but nobody's watching it from you know, in a collective point of view. Like obviously the diehards are watching it and they're fucking loving it, but the general population, the general crowd are not watching this show, and it is such an absolute disaster because it is almost perfect. You know, I even said it to my missus. Like I was like, the show finished, and I was like, that was some of the best Marvel I've probably ever seen. And I was like, you have to watch it. I said, I'll rewatch it with you. And she's like, nah, I've no interest in it because it's animation. Like, and I'm like, honestly, you know, it just doesn't. It doesn't even feel like an animation to me. Like, and maybe that's because I'm getting a little more into anime and stuff. I don't know, but you know, she's like, she doesn't even like the way the voice acting is done with the drawing and stuff. Like it kind of brings her out of it when she doesn't see like proper facial expressions and stuff like that. I kind of understand what she's saying, but I can forget it. You know, I read a comic book, I'm like, this is a moving comic book. Like I'm in heaven, like, you know. So I can kind of understand her viewpoint though, that she doesn't want to watch it because of that reason. And I'd say she's not alone, 100% not alone. Like I would say anybody that I know in real life who's even slightly a Marvel fan are probably not watching this, you know? And that's just, it's such a shame as well, because the show, and in the last couple of episodes even chimed this perfectly, but the show is very much an adult animated series. Like there's
100%.
yeah, there's nothing there for children. Like, you know, I would nearly not let my children watch this show because I think it's like very adult in tone. It's very graphic in scenes. It's very, you know, like we're watching like the scene where Wolverine gets stripped of the adamantium and all. Like that was just like, it was very graphic looking. And then when like Magneto obviously gets stabbed and stuff as well, like there was a lot going on, a lot of blood and everything, which was obviously incredible. But
yeah, and
very, very adult in tone.
Yeah, and even then, like they pulled back a bit on that, which that's completely fine. You know, you don't want to go too ham unless you're like doing like Marvel After Dark kind of stuff. You know, like
it's Disney. It's Disney.
Yeah,
you know, I understand.
Yeah, so I mean, because like getting that stuff ripped out of you, I'm pretty sure it looks even more gruesome in the comics itself when you actually see Magneto doing it.
Yeah, I saw some panels of it, like, and I look crazy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the artwork in the show is just phenomenal, like so good.
Well, and it's so funny because like every now and then, you know, I'll be on TikTok and like there's some Marvel stuff that pops up and people are showing panels of like Marvel itself and all these gruesome things that happen in Marvel, and it's like, yeah, of course, like all that stuff's like been done to death, especially in Marvel. Like this is all in a way similar to the Ultimates, but it doesn't kind of happen the same way. Like we don't get to see Onslaught, but we kind of get a hint of it.
Yeah.
Which I mean, that's going to be cool if they ever do decide to do Onslaught in the future.
I think that's coming in season 2. Like it seems like they're kind of teeing it up, right?
Yeah, especially since, you know, Charles and Magnus have already like kind of reconciled their differences, and they're essentially going to have to work together. And and if Sabanur is going to be there, like, you know, we're going to get Apocalypse, and you know it's just gonna it's going to be a really fun time. I know most people probably are like, Apocalypse again, but it's like, no, that's kind of the main villain for X-Men. Like that's their big bad.
Yeah, he's the first, right?
Yeah, he's the first mutant.
Yeah, so like it would make sense that the first mutant is in a mutant story. You know, I'm not shocked. I'm not shocked. Yeah, look, I'll be honest, like, you know, some of it, I'm not a big X-Men sweaty. So like, you know, some of it, I'm like the bit where they went to the future and stuff, I was like, I don't really know what's going on here. So I kind of need this explained. So I just, you know, for me, it was just kind of like, I need to kind of watch somebody break it down. And I got to give a quick shout out to Rob over at Comics Explained. If you don't follow him, like he is probably the biggest comic book sweaty on YouTube. Like he's read everything and just can just pull back information just so well. So check him out. Like big shout out to him. He did a good explanation of the finale, and he actually called it weeks and weeks and weeks ago. Like he knew exactly where it was going. and he was 100% right. So obviously that'll kind of tell you the knowledge that he has, and obviously, always shouting out down the nerds, like he's phenomenal as well. So the two of them kind of like gave me a good bit of knowledge on what was going on and what to expect in season 2. And like, if they're right, if they do decide to kind of go like for like on the comics and stuff like that, like I think it's going to be a wild season 2. Like the hype train isn't going to slow down at all. I think it's going to just keep going, and we're just going to keep getting almost perfection.
Right.
Yeah.
And I find it sad that most people don't want to watch this due to the fact that it's like animated. And I know that more of the diehard fans are definitely going to watch this, but it goes to show how much Marvel has kind of pushed in the live action to the point where people don't want to see anything other than live action now. And even then, those same people are probably the people that are upset about some of the live action things that have been going on.
True. And like, honestly, I would say, I'd say a good like 4 out of 10 people that would skip it because it's animation, because they're just not into that anymore. And like, that's a personal preference. That's fine. And I think most people kind of grow up and they grow out of animation. I was very much kind of in that boat for most things. And, I've kind of started coming around and watching a little bit of anime lately. And I feel like I never would have skipped the show anyway. I know that for a fact, but I can kind of understand why some people, like why a lot of people would, and I think if you were to kind of sit like 10 people down in a room and just be like, look, just watch this, like ignore the fact that it's animation, like, and if these people are like so hardcore against it, I would say easily like half the people will come out just going, wow, that was actually brilliant, like I'll keep watching that or whatever. I think they just need to give it a chance, but I know a lot of people just won't. Now I'm very curious to see that the whole season is out and it's regarded so highly. I'd be very curious to see, will people go, actually I will sit down and watch that now because it's all out, and I'll kind of binge it or whatever and see what the fucking hype is about, and right. I think I'm very curious to see how it kind of performs outside of the weekly now that it's all out. Maybe people have just been waiting for it to end, who knows?
Just like, for it to be binged, like I could totally see that.
Yeah, and like, we're a small channel here on YouTube, like, but I do even see it in the analytics when something is not that popular. Our podcasts aren't listened to as much, and like I know even for a small channel, you do see the effect of something that isn't in the general population of being very popular. I could see people probably going, they're talking about X-Men, I'm not watching it, I have no interest, I'll come back when they're talking about something else. And like, genuinely, even on our channel, I see that. I always see some of the bigger channels talking about how they know themselves from their own videos if a show is good or not, because if they put out a video on it, and if it hits a certain threshold, they know, okay, people are watching this and they want their opinions. They want to see the breakdowns. They want to see the theories, blah, blah, blah. They want to engage. But even this channel, I see a drop in engagement when it comes to this show, which is terrible. Like, I can't believe it. Like, like we usually average about 70 or 80 plays on each podcast episode when it's just a kind of normal week and it's something that everybody's watching. And this, we're doing half that, like, so it's just, it's very evident that a lot of people just have no interest in this show, and it's such a shame.
Yeah, such a shame. But I mean, it's also their loss in the sense. I mean, you can't really tell us that you hate something either. Like in certain cases, some people are like, "Oh, I hate that stuff." It's like, well, have you watched it? Have you given it a chance? And if they say no, then it's like they're just denying that, they're possibly denying like their own sense of like satisfaction from watching something. And even if they don't like it afterwards, at least they gave it a shot. There's some people that just absolutely will not watch animation, which I think
it's not some, bro. It's most adults. I mean, it's most adults will not even watch it. I think yourself and even myself now, I'm more so, we're coming into like the kind of, we're the rarity, I think, when it comes to it. Like, I think anime is probably most popular, in the age bracket of probably like, 14 to like 25 or something. I'd say that's probably their biggest hit in like age category. And then it kind of becomes a bit more of a niche as you go up through the age categories. Like I'd be pretty sure. Like even take One Piece for example, a show that I know you're obsessed with. I see children's clothes for One Piece in some of the stores over here, but I never see any like adult sizes for One Piece. And it's the same with like Dragon Ball Z and all this sort of stuff. You know, I don't see adult versions of like t-shirts and stuff like that in merch, whereas I see all the child merch. You know what I mean? So I kind of expect now, maybe I'm just talking about my country here, but maybe you see it differently in where you are. But for me, it all that stuff like One Piece and stuff falls into the same category as like Mario and, you know, all that sort of stuff. Like with regards to merchandise and stuff, it's all very much focused on kids. And if you wanted to get an adult version of like a One Piece t-shirt, you'd have to shop online for it, like and go to a specific place to get it. It's not kind of general population purchasing. You know.
Yeah, and just to kind of like bring it up again for the demographic, you're absolutely right. Like we don't have a large group of people that are watching this stuff. It's mainly because of the fact that I'm a millennial and that millennials are like kind of the bread and butter of anime fans.
Yeah.
That's kind of where we are. We're at about like 39 to 41%. Whereas Gen Z has kind of reached around the same threshold as Gen X, which is around 25 to 21%. So it's dropped considerably for Gen Z, but that's only because there's so much social media nowadays, and we weren't really living in the world of social media as millennials. We were watching cartoons, we were watching animated shows, we were watching a few animated movies here and there as well. That's why we can regard some of the, like a lot of the DC movies to be one of the best, and some of the Marvel movies to be pretty good as well. But once it got into the world of live action, like it still hit pretty well. But then, you know, as we get further and further into the 2020s, we could see how social media is just kind of taken over, and people don't have that long of an attention span anymore to really like want to sit down and just watch something and enjoy it. So, you know, we're in a different group, of course. So like that totally fits the bill on what we were just talking about. Like, it's just that we can appreciate it if we take a chance to sit down and watch it. But people nowadays, especially with so many different social media applications, it's really hard. There's so many new things that pop up. It's like you look at something on TikTok, you laugh at it, you swipe up. That was like maybe 5 to 10 seconds of your life that maybe made you laugh and maybe didn't.
Yeah.
And you know, it's nice. It's like candy, but I prefer cake. I prefer to sit there and just like enjoy it.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
It's crazy, man. Like when we watch things like this, and we're like, man, this is the greatest ever. You take it to a Gen Zer, and it's like, I really wasn't paying attention. I was on the phone.
Yeah. Look, man, we're all guilty of that as well. I think, like, you know, social media, while it is a fantastic thing, there's a lot of, and this is the internet, like the internet itself. I think there's a lot of good on the internet, but there's also a lot of bad. Like, you know, you gotta kind of, the good comes with the bad. Like, and I think everything is like that. Social media is like that. Just the internet in general, you know, like there's some beautiful things, you know, gaming, everything, gaming's like that, you know, there's good and bad things in gaming. It's just, this is the world we live in. Like, you know, I suppose it's trying to take everything in moderation, but I don't know. Maybe binge culture will come in here and really help this show kind of get a second wind. I only read there during the day, just to kind of come off topic a little bit, but Madam Web, we talked about it quite a bit on the podcast, but Madam Web was very like regarded as like an absolute failure. But I think it just went up on Netflix this past weekend, maybe Friday, Saturday, and it's #1 in movies in the United States at the moment on Netflix. And that will kind of just tell you, #1, like, you know, people will kind of watch anything that it's, you know, like there's kind of like that kind of side of it. You know, I was always kind of
terrible,
convinced.
it'd be free. Like if it's terrible, if it's free, then you'll definitely watch it.
Exactly. But I was kind of like, I don't know if you ever flick through Netflix and you kind of look at the charts. I always kind of look at the charts, like, you know, what's in the top 10, and now it's always done by. I live in Ireland, so it's always just the top 10 in Ireland, but you know, it's always the movie that's just been released, and like sometimes you'll know the movie's shit, but it's number one, and it's just because it's like freshly released. It just jumps straight to number one. So this is like kind of confirmed for me that is the case. That just once anything goes up there that's like remotely blockbuster or whatever, it just goes straight to number one. And Madam Web, which is a fucking 3 out of 10 at best, just it has shot to number one straight away, going up on Netflix. So it kind of proves it, like, you know, and that's, I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing on the people who are watching Netflix. I don't really know. But maybe people were just like, oh, I've heard this is so shit, let's watch it and see how bad it actually is, you know. Or it's like, I do want to check it out, make my own mind up, but I wasn't paying for it, I'll watch it for free.
Right, exactly. And the way I see it for like the top 10, it's really hard to gauge it sometimes, because it's like, why the fuck is this at like a number one? Like, what? Why? Like, like we all knew it was shit, and it's exactly what you're saying is basically like it's a curiosity. I'm curious. Like, I get curious too. If something's free, I curiously watch it. It's like, why not? I've watched some terrible movies before. I watched Titanic too. That's free on YouTube.
I could never click play on that. I think even if I was paid to watch that, I don't think I could do it, bro.
It's so bad, dude.
I can imagine. Talking about ratings, just to go through the last kind of couple of episodes of the XMEN97, 9.5 for the finale. Episode 9, 9.5. Episode 8, 9.4. Episode 7, 8.7. Like, incredible. Remember It, episode 5, 9.8, bro. Like, almost perfect episode. That was the one where Gambit died. Holy shit, what an episode. Wow.
Almost anything that ends up being like a twist is going to hit like the highest ratings. I believe the Red Wedding was a huge hit, right, for Game of Thrones.
Bro, that episode still haunts me of that show. Just the bit where she gets stabbed in the stomach and she's very heavily pregnant, bro. Like, that just, whew. That's a tough watch, and I haven't watched that in a couple of years now, like since I've become a father. Like, I can only imagine it would hurt even more now watching that. Like, but Jesus Christ, I remember even I just thinking to myself, like, how could they do this? Like how could they actually film this and all? Like, I was just shocked by it. Yeah, it was, oh man, terrible.
It's good though. Like, it's stuff like that, you know.
Amazing, yeah.
Yeah, and like, it goes to show like how our society is. It's like, of course we want like really good stuff, you know. We were happy when the heroes win, but when we see that people lose, it's fucking heartbreaking at times. It's also like brutal. Like, villains don't hold back, and it's pretty fucking cool when it happens.
It is, you know, like you're watching it like, and after the kind of shock disappears, you're kind of like, wow, this is just god tier TV, like, you know. It's so good. Yeah. No, yeah, I agree.
So like when we see Remember It, and we go into episode 9, you know, Tolerance's Extinction Part 2, you know, we see like at the very end that Wolverine gets his adamantium taken out, and so now he's basically a standard Wolverine that's, you know, healing within like episode 10. So it's taking him some time to kind of go through the process, because it's not like, oh my God, he can just heal himself up now that it's taken out. Like, no, like, his whole body got fucking wrecked. His whole skeleton was covered in adamantium. So like, to have that taken out, it's probably like bruised, battered, even broken some of those bones. And so like, it just takes a lot longer for him to recover at that point. It's kind of like when he gets shot in the head. You know, it may seem like he died for a second, but no, it's just his brain trying to reconstruct everything.
Yeah.
So like, but before that, I would say like everything that was leading up to that moment was awesome. The fact that they wore like their iconic, like, you know, old suits, I have no idea why they did that, other than maybe just for fan service, like just for the fact that they wanted to appease to the fans and show them all like the old costumes that they used to wear. And some of them are pretty goofy, but like, it was fun to see anyway. The fact that Morph utilizes his abilities to the fullest, like whenever necessary, like he changed into the Hulk, which was awesome.
Yeah, I was waiting to talk to you about that. Because like,
oh yeah, dude.
I don't know what it was. Like I was kind of tired when I was watching that episode, and I like might have looked away for a second, and then I looked back and I was like, Hulk. I was like, what the fuck? And then I had to rewind. I was like, how the fuck is Hulk here? Like, what the hell? And I was like, oh, Morph. Okay. And the same thing happened with Reed in the finale. I saw Reed pop in, and I was like, what the fuck? I was like, Mr. Fantastic, and I was like, oh shit, it's Morph again. I was like, this motherfucker.
It's so good because like it makes sense because like he utilizes his powers to the fullest at any point when he needs it. And it's amazing that like they're not holding back on showing different characters, and they're also showing that like the world exists beyond just X-Men. And we've seen and we've said that before, like in episode 5, like when we saw that, you know, Charles was out in space and handling with like aliens and, you know, Gladiator. You have all these different characters, and I need to rewatch that because there's so many different names that I'm not aware of, and I need to go read some more comics on that because I would love to learn more about those characters. I'm not super huge on X-Men, but I do have to say, like, I'm very much interested. It's just I didn't have a way to really read comics around here because it wasn't that apparent until I started looking for it. There's very much a few hole in the wall areas that have like comic book stores. But for the most part, they're kind of filled with like trading card games and board games and such because, they have to supplement it. But anyways, it's so cool to see that they're doing their best to utilize every single X-Men's characteristic and ability, and like having Beast come in a Sentinel armor and just utilizing that. You see, like Cyclops utilizing like the different effects of his beams, like shooting it in small doses or doing one large blast, doing sweeps. You see like, Morph changing into different characters, Hulk, which was like really cool. I thought that was awesome because it really shows like that he understands like all the different characteristics and is like, I need super strength, I'll go Hulk. I need to be stretchy, I'll go Mr. Fantastic. I need to, I'll do Psylocke because she's acrobatic.
And would like, so a morph question, would a morphing into a Hulk be able to fight the Hulk? Like, is it no, it's not the same kind of strength or anything. Like, he doesn't actually get the abilities, it kind of just mimics them.
He gets their base abilities.
Gotcha. So like he's strong as Hulk, but not Hulk strong, if that makes sense.
He can't get stronger as he gets angrier, essentially.
Yeah.
But
it's cool though. Like, obviously, it'd be a great power to have, to be able to like mimic other heroes. Would be epic, like,
Yeah, well, if he could actually fully mimic and utilize their abilities to the fullest, I think he'd be considered Omega level because then he could just be anybody.
Time. Exactly. Yeah. 100%. Which would be cool to see. I don't know if you ever watched the show Heroes. I don't really want to go off track too much here, but reel me in. But there was that show Heroes. I was a big fan of the show back in the day when it first came out. But the main character in it, Peter, he basically becomes a mimic as he gets more powerful as the show goes on. Mm-hmm. And he kind of peoples that I don't know if he needs to physically touch them. I can't remember, or if he just needs to be in the vicinity of them or whatever, but he can just, I think they do a thing in season 3 where there's like an alternate timeline or something, and you see him at full power, and it's like he can fly, he can go invisible, he can stop time, go back in time. Like, it's incredible. Like, he's just so strong. And I always thought that was like so fucking amazing, and I was kind of sad that we didn't get to see it for longer, but I understand why, because like once you kind of introduce that into a storyline, it's like he's invincible, like he can't be stopped, like, and I thought the villain in that show was just so good. Like, he's one of the best villains I think ever told, like, just because he's basically a serial killer who goes around and he needs to slice them open like Dexter style. He needs to kind of actually like physically examine their brains and learn how to use those abilities, but he's doing what Peter's doing, but just from a fucking sick and twisted way. And oh man, like, that was like god tier TV for me. Like, when I was because like I watched that from episode 1. I remember seeing the pilot going, let's see what this is about, and I was on board from day 1. Like, it was incredible. And I even have like seasons 1 to 3 on Blu-ray. Like, I even, like, it's in my collection, it's sitting on the shelf down beside the TV in the sitting room. Like, I love it so much. But yeah, Morph, I think, could be like that kind of level of amazing. I think they underutilize him, to be honest. Like, if you could have him kind of maybe establish it that, like, yes, okay, he's not that strong, but if you could have him just kind of morphing into everybody, like, it would just be so cool. Like, just getting to see all of these random characters. It's a great way to kind of cameo like little characters here and there. Because obviously, like, everybody watching the MCU is all about cameos and stuff like that. So it's a great way to kind of get people hyped up, and you could see that they were trying to do that in the actual finale. They brought in Daredevil, they brought in Doctor Strange, they brought in Black Panther. The Dora Milaje were there. Like, it was amazing.
We saw Peter and MJ.
MJ was there, yeah. So, like, a lot to be said, and I know Bo DeMeo, like, confirmed it on Twitter that it actually does take this is all taking place after the Spider-Man show. He has confirmed it now. So this is MJ back from the multiverse. So Peter did find her. So they have to do Spider-Man 98 now. I really think so. Like, after the success of this show, I really think that they need to do Spider-Man 98.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So sick, dude. But, like, the list of cameos, man, like, again, like, Morph, not really Reed, but still Reed at the same time, and like Hulk and Reed, like, it was just so cool to see. And, like, Strange operating on the table, but he's used his powers and stuff. I was just like, this is fucking brilliant, like, it's so good. And Iron Man, obviously, as well.
I love the old suit. I love the old suit.
President, yeah, the proper Tin Man stuff. Like, it was fucking sick, dude.
Yeah.
It was great. It was great because, again, you got to remember it's 1997, so he would probably be in a much, like, Mark II, Mark III suit, like, sort of thing, like, maybe, like, even. So yeah, it's cool. Big fan, man. Big fan.
And one of the things I really like about the show too is the fact that they're not afraid to give voices to these characters that are completely different from what we usually hear from the live action. Which, like, I highly praise. Like, you give these characters a voice, whether it's supposed to be like a star that we've seen on live action or not, or somewhere similar, that's fine. Like, I don't care. I just want to hear their voice. I just want to be able to hear them talk and, like, get what they're thinking. And it was really cool to hear, Captain America speak, to hear T'Chaka speak, because that's not T'Challa. That's actually Black Panther's father.
King T'Chaka, yeah.
King T'Chaka, yeah.
I saw some people kind of giving out about that in comments online, and they were kind of saying, like, oh, they felt like it was disrespectful to Chadwick and stuff. It's like, This is fucking 1997, bro, in a different universe. Calm the fuck down, like, this isn't 616, like, relax. And even if it was 616, like, T'Challa at that time in 1997 would be like a teenager or something. So, like, he wasn't going to be the Panther anyway, not at that time. So
he might not even. I mean, depending on how old T'Challa is in the live action, I don't remember if they ever said his age or we got an age.
We first see him in 2016, and he's probably in his mid-20s, I would say.
And when you take into consideration, like, what the movies portray, they're a few years ahead. I think they're in the 2020s, the early 2020s. It gets close.
I don't. Around Civil War, though, are they not kind of in line with our timeline? Wink, wink. Before they kind of do the time jumps and stuff.
I could have sworn it was ahead. And then the time jump.
Yeah, you might be right. I'm not sure. The timeline got a bit confusing, and they kind of fucked it up themselves with Spider-Man. Do you remember when Spider-Man Homecoming came out and they did the wrong jump, the wrong time jump? Like, it was like, wait a minute, what's going on? I remember seeing that straight away and go, what? Why is this based 2 years ago or whatever? Like, I remember thinking that straight away, and they got the time wrong. Like, so, and they admitted it as well. Like, so I thought they would have fixed it when they brought it out in digital, but they obviously have kept it in because I've watched that movie so many times before. But yeah,
I like movie mistakes.
I don't mind them, but I think in something like the MCU, they really shouldn't be making mistakes like that, especially big ones like that. Like, especially when it comes to the timeline in a cinematic universe, like they shouldn't be making mistakes like that.
Because even people who aren't sweaty about it, like, they're like, there's some normal people who are like, I kind of remember that differently. What the fuck? Like, it'll still get pointed out regardless. It's just, it is kind of weird that, they've been doing a pretty good job kind of combing over everything and making sure that they don't miss a spot. And that's kind of funny. Maybe they were just trying to rush that one.
I don't know. Like, because if you think about it, right? So, again, I remember that movie. It came out in like 2017, and in the movie, they're like, 8 years later, after the flashback to 2012 for the for the Avengers movie and like the Battle of New York, which was 2012, and they're like 8 years later. So I remember sitting in the cinema 2017 thinking to myself, why is it 2020 in this movie? Like, what's going on? Because that was before they did a leap forward. So I'm like, what's going on? Why is it 2020? That was it really threw me off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was funny. So yeah, they kind of knew that they should have done it. Like, it should have been 6 years instead of 8 or whatever it was, whatever the mistake was. I don't really remember. But yeah, anyway.
So I have a couple questions. So when you watch this, knowing that you're not that well versed in X-Men itself, and that you haven't necessarily watched X-Men 92, what do you think of this show?
This show, honestly, it blew me away how good the show was. I wasn't a big fan, like, I'm not a big fan of the 92 series. I still haven't seen all the episodes. I probably never will see all the episodes, but this show was fantastic. It was great to just kind of jump in with everybody and just have a good starting point and just watch it weekly. Not a lot to kind of jump in on. I think if it was binged, like if they've released it all at once, I probably would have still watched the 10 episodes anyway. Like, I kind of always knew I was going to watch this, probably mostly because of the podcast. But even if we weren't doing this podcast, I still would have watched it. But I find the 92 show, the animation is kind of rough to watch sometimes. So I kind of can't sit and watch a lot of it, even though I know I'm sure some of the stories are probably incredible. The 94 Spider-Man is my Bible. It's where I became a nerd. Like, that show just really kind of, I dove headfirst into Marvel, into Spider-Man, into comic books, like, and stuff, like, at that age when I first watched that show. So that'll always be special to me no matter what. And even if it was the exact same comic style, I kind of cut the Spider-Man show more slack than I would the X-Men show. But like, honestly, like, I cannot recommend this show enough. Like, and as I said at the start of the podcast, like, I'm nearly begging my missus to watch the show. Like, I would love an excuse to watch it again, but she just won't watch it. Like, it's just, it's the way it is. But I will rewatch it 100%. I've watched, because like, even I watched some of the episodes twice before we even sat down and talked about them, because they came out on a Wednesday. Was it Wednesday or Thursday? I can't remember. Wednesday, I think. Came out on a Wednesday, and we did the podcast on a Sunday, and I would genuinely, some of the episodes were so good that I was watching them twice before we talked about it, which is rare for me to do. Like, most things that we talk about, I've only watched it once. So yeah, that should awesome. Tell you everything you need to know.
Yeah. So considering that, my follow-up question is, would you be interested if there were parts in the show to where it kind of references to things that happened in the past show? If they use Gen AI to essentially be like, okay, so this is associated with this. How about we recommend this to the watcher? Like, hey, so if you want to know more about Genosha, or if you want to know more about this, how about you watch this episode specifically from the 92 series? Would you be interested in kind of getting a little bit of backstory if they were to just hand you like episodes here and there to kind of give you a little bit more reference?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and I think, again, I'm probably the worst person to ask this question to, because like, after an episode of a show, I will happily sit and watch fucking 3 or 4 different YouTubers break it down and talk about it and stuff. So I'm not the man probably to ask that question to, but I think, yeah, absolutely. if Disney Plus were saying, like, like they do in comic books, they bring up the kind of the writer brings up the little bubble, like, read issue, whatever from this series, like DC do it all the time. They'll be talking about something and it'll be like down on the very bottom right hand corner, it'll be like, go to issue 152 of Batman to read what we're talking about in this panel here. So DC do it. I don't know if Marvel do that in comics. I don't really think I've seen Marvel doing that in comics.
I don't think they do.
Yeah, no, DC have been doing that for a long, long time. And to be honest, I think it really works as a kind of selling tool as well, because there's the amount of times I've been sitting reading like a Batman comic or something, and it's like he references something that's going on in like Nightwing or something, and it's like, check out Nightwing #1 to see what's going on and or read the rest of this story, and you're kind of like, fuck yeah, I want to read what's going on. Then you sign up to fucking a whole Nightwing series, like, so it's clever. It definitely works. And I think, yeah, look, if Disney are struggling as much as we hear they are, with people like canceling subscriptions and stuff like that, it's a great little way to kind of get people to get more watch time in on the app. Like, yeah, 100%.
Well, that was the thing is when we were watching Moon Knight, they had QR codes throughout the episodes that like linked you to different comics, and I read
cool.
those comics once I got that. Like I pulled up the one where it was Moon Knight versus Kang, and I read that whole comic. It was just, I think it was a one shot, but it was awesome. Like just showing that situation of where like Moon Knight goes up against Kang. Kang is kind of going around and attacking different Moon Knights from different universes.
Yeah.
And then they finally catch up to him, and then it's like, well, we're gonna pour all our power into this one Moon Knight and have him go up against Kang so that he can destroy the staff, so that Kang can't just go and like fuck up everything. So like it's just such a cool thing to show, like, okay, Moon Knight's like fought Kang before. Moon Knight Moon Knight was introduced in Werewolf by Night. There's all these different things that you could do. Like you have all these different characters that you show in X-Men 97 that some people are like, who the fuck is that? And in my head, I'm like, that's Cloak and Dagger right there. Like, people are going to be like that. I would, because I'm like, holy shit, that's Cloak and Dagger. That's fucking sick.
Yeah.
But if you were to put like just like, I don't know, a snippet or a QR code or something, I don't think that's very invasive of like, I don't know if it's invasive in animated series, but I know it's not that invasive in live action because it's like kind of a thing we live in. We get QR codes everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely remember when Moonlight was on and there was a bit of hype around, like, did you spot this in the episode? There was like all these little like teasers and Easter eggs, and it kind of led to real world shit, which I thought was really cool. But I think in anime, like full blown, do it. Like, if you want to find out more about this, like put it in a little speech bubble that pops up at the bottom of the screen, like DC do in the comics, and just be like, read this, read that, go back here, make sure you read this issue before you read on, because you won't really know what's going on. I don't think there's any problem in that whatsoever. Like, it's just expanding people's knowledge of the universe. And I think some people might see it as a bit of a greedy thing to try and get people to buy more comics or whatever. But if it's watching a fucking show that's already there on the app, it's just, you got to go back into the library. Why not? Like, it has zero harm to anybody. Like, they're already paying for the service. You've got all the content there. Just, this is your homework, right. Go back and watch more.
Well, and like if they at least give us one for free, it kind of sounds like a drug dealer situation. First one's free.
That's definitely some marketing shit right there. Like, it's like, hey, we'll give you this one for free. That's why I actually fully talk about that. I was only having a conversation about this on Discord the other day, but the way they do Free Comic Book Day, it was like last weekend. They do 2 weeks ago. It actually happened on May the 4th as well, which was cool. And they did a Star Wars comic, but I'll collect the comics from the Free Comic Book Day, but I tend to not read too many of them because I'm like, I know exactly what they're doing. Like, they give you issue 1 of like a Star Wars comic with Luke Skywalker and shit. And I'm like, if I read this right now, I'm going to want to keep going. I'm going to want to buy issue 2 and 3 and 4. And then I sign up and I pull the whole series. And then it goes into like the list of crazy shit that I have. I have 11 fucking boxes of comic books beside me here. Like, I'm addicted to buying comic books, but I kind of see it as a kind of marketing stunt where it's like, they're going to try and get me reading stuff that I usually wouldn't pick up. So I try not to read too many comics on Comic Book Day, which probably goes against why they're doing it. But I know I really feel like that's the real reason why they're doing it. They're trying to get people into different series, like.
Right. So I've never been to Free Comic Book Day. Is there a limit on how many free comics you get?
You can take one of each. They don't let you pick up more than one issue. Well, that's how my shop works anyway. When you walk in on the day, they have like a table and there's like maybe like 30 or 40 issues as you go around the table. And it's like, take one of each if you want. You can take one of every single comic if you want, but you can't take more than one copy of that comic. So they did an Avengers one, they did a Thor, they did Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, they did couple of DC things as well. Blood Hunt, which is a new kind of series that's running at the moment. They did issue 1 of that. And then they have a couple of like indie stuff going around, and then they had some Star Wars stuff, which obviously made sense with the day that was in it. But yeah, it's a good day, like, and I even picked up like there's this like animated Spider-Man show that's on Disney Plus for kids. Like, I picked up one of that. They had like issue 1 of that comic, like it's Spidey and his friends or whatever the fuck it's called. Picked up that for my son, and he loved just kind of flicking through the pages. I was like, "Are you reading the speech bubbles?" And he's like, "No, I'm just looking at the pictures." I was like, "That's fine, that's fine." But I was like, if you want to read the story, like, read what they're saying, like, read the little speech bubbles. and he's kind of like, yeah, whatever. Like he's kind of just wants to look at the pictures of Spider-Man and stuff, and I'm like,
it's that Gen Z attitude,
we'll,
bro.
We'll get you there, bro. We'll get you there. Yeah,
it's that short attention span. Like everybody from Gen Z is like, oh, what's the next big thing? What's the next big thing?
Yeah.
So like, I totally get that.
Yeah, no, I think like, you know, it's just he's kind of like that anyway. He's a bit he's set in his ways, let's just say. So
yeah, but like you said, maybe when he gets older, he'll be a little bit more interested in wanting to actually read it.
I think so, and like I'll have such a fucking back catalog of stuff that he could jump into. Like it'll be insane, you know. If he turns around to me, it's just like, you know, oh, I love Batman. I'll be like, there's like 6 years of Batman comics right there. Go for it, bro. You know, just put them back and make sure you don't rip any pages, but put them back when you're finished reading them. But like, yeah, like literally, I'll have years and years. I've been collecting comics solidly for about 6 or 7 years now, I'd say. Maybe more. Jesus. Yeah, I think it was around the time that the Arrow show came out in the CW. I wanted to. This is when I started like properly collecting, because I wanted to. That show did like a kind of spin-off, not a spin-off, but they did a kind of little small prequel series to the show in comics. And then they did like a kind of prelude or whatever you want to call it between seasons 1 and 2. So I was like, I want to read what's going on in the comics and what they're getting up to in the months that the show's on TV. So that was where I kind of got into it. And then I was like, okay, I got to start reading the Flash, Batman, and all this stuff. And it kind of just grew from there. And then now I'm reading fucking Spider-Man. And I'm like, I used to only just collect DC, but now I'm dipping pretty deeply into Marvel now as well. So my comic book shop loves me, bro. I'm dropping nearly $200 a month on comics. Like, you know, it's crazy. Yeah,
well, I hope you're liking all the stories that you're dipping into for Marvel. I've always liked both sides. I just never had like a higher affinity for DC, only for the fact that there are a few characters that I'm not super interested in. The Lantern Corps is like my favorite of all. It's unique. There's all different spectrums. It's just a cool design for each character, and the costumes are essentially the same, but it's just cool that they all have different abilities. You know, you have the pink ones, you have the red, you have the whites, blacks. It's such a cool spectrum to go through. And some DC comic characters actually who were never meant to be like a ring bearer happen to be part of it at some point. I think Superman was a black ring for a while, and then he changed to white later.
Yeah, I was only reading now. One thing that I love about DC is just the fact that they can kind of veer off the kind of main timeline so easily and just do like little Elseworld side stories. And like, you know, there's like so many like off like we'll call it Elseworlds. There's so many like Elseworlds like Batman comics that I've read. You know what I mean? They do like these little mini like 5 and 6 issue series or 12 issue series, and they do all these like, you know, zombie ones and vampire ones and all this crazy shit. But they did one like it was like a zombie one that went on for like a year, because they released like one comic a year and it was like 12 issues, but it went on like for a year pretty much. Like, but they did a thing in it where the Black Canary, who's like pretty much just like a human character, but like she's kick ass, but she has this like she can like kind of shatter shit with her voice. She's kind of like Black Bolt in a way. But basically she becomes a Green Lantern. She gets a ring. I think, I can't remember who dies, whether it's like John Stewart in the story or Hal Jordan. One of them dies anyway, and the ring goes to her, and she becomes such a fucking badass character because she's got this ring. Like, it's just amazing. And then like her version of Green Arrow dies, and then they start like weird shit starts happening where like a second Earth comes into it and all. It's just mental, man. Like, that's why I love DC as well, because there's the main story that's going on, like the connected universe in the comics, but then there's like so many different side streets, like different branches or whatever you want to call it. But it's just wild. I love it so much. And like, you can jump in so easily. And like, you know, my comic book shop, I don't know if all comic book shops are like this, but I'll get emails about all these new series that are coming out, and they tell you how many issues it's going to be. So they'll be like, you know, new Batman run coming out, you know, Batman. There was one where it was like Batman's in Ireland, and I was like, I have to get this, obviously. You know, like he's in Belfast and all this shit in Dublin. I was like, I need to see Dublin drawn in a comic book, you know. And it's like, you know, issue 1 of 5, 1 of 6, 1 of 12, and then I just know, okay, at least if I add this to the pull list, it's it's only going to be for 6 weeks or 6 months or whatever. It's only 6 issues, so it's not going to cost an arm and a leg. But yeah, I just love it. Like, and I'm not a big enough reader on Marvel that I don't know if maybe they do the same thing. I get the impression that they don't really kind of do as many kind of like. Now I know I'm reading like some of the Ultimate stuff at the moment, and then there's like a Twilight series going on at the moment where it's kind of about like all the Avengers as old men and stuff, which is cool. Um, maybe that is more common than I know, but correct me if I'm wrong. But I feel like DC do it a lot more, and because like some of my favorite like stories are Elseworld stories, I kind of feel like DC do it better. But that's probably me just being a little biased because I read more DC than I do Marvel. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm loving some of the new stuff that's coming out in Marvel that I'm reading. I'm reading the Spider-Man stuff, which I've been talking about over the last couple of episodes, and that shit is just speaking to me on different levels because, me and Peter are going through the same shit in life, and it's singing to me, bro. Like, the pages are jumping out at me. Like, it's phenomenal. And the Twilight stuff is really cool as well. Like, I'm really liking that. There was this week only a one-shot came out for Doom. Big Doom comic came out that was written by Jonathan Hickman as well, so I'm sure that's going to be a very popular release. I have a copy of that waiting for me at the shop. Can't wait to read it as well because like Hickman is a legend, like like he really is. Like, he's done some fucking amazing stuff, and I really want to get deep into it. But yeah, sorry about the rant on comics, but hey, it's all connected, bro. I could probably sit here and talk for fucking 2 hours more about comics as well. So do you have anything else left to say on X-Men, or do you want to move on?
Just that in terms of all the things that's occurred in episode 9 and 10, I would say that Morph kind of expressing his feelings for Wolverine was pretty cool. Like, I thought that was a very interesting moment. It was alluding over time of the fact that like he really enjoyed spending time with Wolverine. I think he felt like a more connection with him, considering that he was, Wolverine's a very lone wolf kind of person.
Yeah.
And
excuse the pun.
Yeah. But essentially, like, it really goes to show how much they care about the different characters and their feelings towards other characters, because that's how the world works. Like, you kind of hang around people that you care about so much. Eventually you might have like feelings for one another in terms of either family or even more so like relationship. And it's really cool. Like, it kind of like, even when you see that moment with like Eric and Charles, it's like, it's such a bond that they have. They look at like, he looks at him like, you're my brother, dude. Like, he's like, literally, I thought he was going to be like, I love you, dude. Like, you're, like, I just want you to be happy. I just want you to understand like the plight that I'm giving, and that I want you to feel how I feel, and just try to reason like with the humans and try to be more a part of their lives. And Eric is so like shattered from the inside. It's just so hard for him to accept it. But he was trying when Charles was gone. But once he came back, it was like, oh, I guess I can go back to my old ways, which is completely fine, because then he's like, you have your white knight. Like, I can go back to being myself again.
Yeah. Man, there was some fucking powerful stuff that happened in that last episode. Like, the bit where Scott says to Wolverine when he's down on the table, don't break her heart. And you're kind of like, oh my God, bro. Like, it's like, for Scott to say, I wouldn't say that in real life. Like, if I knew that someone was in love with my missus, I'd be like, fucking die, you piece of shit. I wouldn't give a crap, bro. And like, he's like, Scott's like worried about Jean because he knows that Jean has feelings for Logan and vice versa. He knows he's living in a triangle, bro. And I honestly he's a better man than me, like, and then obviously all the stuff with Charles and everything is amazing as well. The stuff with Morph when he like kind of morphs into Jean and is trying to like kind of coach Logan along and all, like, must be hard. That must be hard for Morph, obviously, because Morph knows, or probably is guessing anyway, that Logan doesn't have those feelings for him or for them, but has feelings for the Jean in that way. And then it's kind of like it's a circle of emotion, really, because Logan feels this way about Jean, Morph feels that way about Logan, Scott feels that way about it's all just a big fucking love triangle, basically. Like, it's wild.
Exactly.
And that's all very Like that's going on. If there are kids watching this show, like that's going over their heads. Like they don't have a fucking clue what's going on. Like, you know, it's like
Right.
it's very, again, adult tone, as I said at the start of the cast. Like, so it was just, yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. I love
Yeah.
it.
I absolutely love that scene. It's like Jean may not be able to say it, but I can.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh man, that sucks. Like, because it's
Yeah.
such a heartbreaking moment. It's like, man, Morph really feels for Wolverine, but he's probably never going to get, you know, the reciprocation. Um, but I mean, if he's expressing that, like, at least he's doing it for a good reason. Like, he morphed into Jean to kind of
It's selfless.
voice.
Yeah.
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 Because, like, he doesn't want him to go. And even if he doesn't reciprocate the feelings, he's still going to want to be around him.
True. True. And I'm sure they'll probably expand on that in season 2 as well.
I'm excited to see if they talk about it. Like, even if Wolverine's like, look, bub, I'm not dealing with this. Like right now, we're in the, like, where are they? Are they in the past right now? I can't remember where they are.
I don't know where I don't know where Logan ended up. I'd need to rewatch the scene, but
yeah,
the team kind of seems split up in like a 50-50 kind of way. Half are in the past, half are in the future. I don't think Logan is with Jean and Scott, so I think he's in the past. Or maybe
right.
I don't think he actually went. Sorry, I think because didn't some of them stay in the present? So like Bishop's in the present, and like maybe Logan is still on the bed in the present. I don't even think he went.
Well, Bishop came from the future, so like that makes sense.
We see the scene though where don't they do like a time jump 6 months into the future, and it's, I can't remember is it Morph that's looking for them or something? I can't even remember.
Possibly, we're gonna have to rewatch it.
I know, bro. I know. I have no problem rewatching it. It's so good. But yeah, maybe I had the thought today. I was like, maybe I'll rewatch the finale before we go live. But just my day was so busy, I didn't get a chance to do it. But yeah, like I think there's a lot going on at the end. I need to break down that kind of final scene again. And you know, for anybody who doesn't know what's going on, if they're not like a X-Men sweaty like myself, I've kind of done a bit of research since. But it seems like the kind of theory out there is that like maybe Kang might be actually connected to the story, what's going on here, because there's a version of Kang that goes back in time to basically try and adopt Apocalypse because he sees how powerful and important Apocalypse becomes. And that variant of him becomes Ramatut, right? I'm saying that right? And
Yeah.
if you see in the finale, they walk up over the kind of horizon and they kind of see the dome kind of civilization, and that's the home of Ramatut, right? That's the Kang variant who's there. So we know there's a Kang variant in the past. And then if we jump forward to the future scene, I'm probably explaining this terribly. Maybe you should explain how because you probably know more of it about it than I do. But that the woman that we see with the hood on is like a lost version of one of Jean and Scott's kids, right?
Right.
She's a Summers basically. So they're meeting their like kind of lost in time daughter, which is crazy again because again, I'm my mind, I don't know anything about these storylines. So for me, I'm kind of viewing them for the first time. So like the whole like I found out in this series that Cable is their son. I didn't know that. Like even when I was watching like Deadpool 2 and stuff, I always knew Cable came from the future, but I didn't know that he was like their son. I was like, what the fuck? Like, you know, so like that was new information to me. And then as well, the Mystique being Nightcrawler's mother, like kind of blew me away as well. I was like, whoa, I was like, holy shit. So like, yeah, this show has been educational for me, man. Like I've learned a lot. And I can't wait for more episodes. I want to learn more.
Yeah. And I think even then we could like to tack on to the future part. Nathan is there. I think they see him at the very end.
Yeah,
of it.
sorry. He's like he's about 10 years old or something like that. So that seems to be where he ended up. Like Bishop dropped him off there because wasn't it a thing where he got brought to Bishop's future, but the technology still wasn't great enough to save him. So a version of him went on further again even further, like to the end of time or whatever. And then the technology is obviously there to heal him because it doesn't look like he has that same sickness in that version of him. So it is all very confusing. So, you know, if you're listening to this and you're like, what the fuck are they talking about? I understand because I kind of feel the same. Go maybe watch Rob Explained, Comics Explained, listen to him talk about it, or Den of Nerds or one of these guys, because they could probably, they're a little more articulate than me and they have a bit more history. So, but it's fascinating stuff, bro. It really is. It's fascinating. I'm fucking loving it.
And what's even more fascinating is like having at least a little bit of knowledge of each of these characters and knowing that their potential is actually shut off because of the way that they were interacted with in this timeline. So Gambit essentially can be Omega level, but in the 616 universe, like he's essentially kind of blocked it off, or he was given a blocker because he was afraid to overdo it and cause trouble from his powers. But he can essentially become Omega level if he has if he's not inhibited.
So is he being resurrected as like one of the horsemen or something like that? Did I hear
yeah,
there's like a storyline about
right.
Well, maybe explain that to people because I'll be terrible at it.
Well, I'm not too well versed on the Four Horsemen, but in the sense, Apocalypse comes around and decides he wants to start basically the end times, and he decides to bring people up as the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse.
Yeah.
One being Gambit, the other being Wolverine, another one being Angel, and I can't remember the last one. But essentially, like once he has those Four Horsemen, then they run basically the end of the world together.
Wow.
Which I think is really sick. Cool. It's fucking sick.
I presume that's probably what's going to be going on in one of these times that we're sitting in at the end. So when we get to season 2, I wouldn't be surprised if there's going to be episodes of season 2 that are going to be like, a past episode, a future episode, a present day episode, and then maybe they'll start kind of mixing them all together and end up back in one time. But yeah, like I think the next season is going to be fucking wild, dude. I can't wait.
Oh, it's going to be sick. Yeah. And maybe with Apocalypse's intervention, if Wolverine does become one of the Horsemen, maybe he'll get a different set of like adamantium in his body, because essentially like being turned into a Horseman by Apocalypse means that you gain other abilities as well. And I don't know if you necessarily retain them, but like you basically become a very fucking powerful character.
Yeah.
And going into the future with Nathan Summers, aka Cable, he's essentially one of the most powerful Summers children ever. Like he could be on the cusp of Omega level. It's just the technovirus fucked him up. Like it really it inhibited his ability. It's again the limiters that occur so that we don't get these ultra powerful characters that for a fact would be made because two of these, like it's always that thought that you have when you're like such a comic book buff, or like it's kind of when you're when you think of Mallrats, that whole situation was like, what if Superman and Lois Lane had a kid, but how the hell would that happen? Because he's got radioactive like super jizz or something.
Yeah.
Remember, like all the stupid stuff. Like
it does happen. It does. Jonathan Kent becomes Superboy, like or whatever. Like that does happen. Well, I know cool, it is. I love like and again, like you think like the Phoenix and Cyclops having kids, like you would think that they would be very fucking powerful. Makes sense.
Yeah, like I mean, having the ability to project energy from your eyes, as well as being telekinetically powerful, like it's just it's an insane combination. And there's like so many different children of like the Summers family
and they all have different abilities. So like obviously when two mutants make a baby, obviously you're not stuck with having like one or the other or a combination of their powers. You can have additional powers or be completely different as well, which is crazy. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Like when you see like the fact that like they've shown in the show that Magneto has two kids. He has Wanda and Petriev.
Yeah.
And it's fucking
Speedster
cool.
Like, and Witch, yeah.
Or is it Dmitriev? I can't remember the names. But like having Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch in the finale as well, that was fucking sick. Like seeing all the different characters that you would see because the world was affected is just the coolest thing you could do for Marvel itself. Bro. Yeah.
It was badass, bro. It really was. And like it makes me just want to see that world maybe expand a little more, because you just know now there's so much going on, there's so much potential. Like, again, I wasn't surprised to see Daredevil because he was part of the Spider-Man show. You know what I mean? Like, and there was so many people throughout the years that came up in cameos in that show. and the X-Men obviously being there as well. So like I'm not surprised at seeing a lot of these characters, but I'd say, you know, if there was new kind of fans coming in who hadn't seen any of the previous shows and kind of seeing like, you know, Cap and Iron Man, like with the president and stuff, like you'd be kind of like, oh my god, this is crazy. This is like the MCU, like, you know, that's like Doctor Strange, Black Panther, like all these people coming in here, just like, holy shit, this is crazy. So yeah, like they definitely hyped it up in a big way at the end to make people really want to come back for season 2. Like, so yeah, like it's,
Yeah.
As I say, if I was going to rate this show in its entirety, it would be like a 9.8 or something. Like, you know, like I can find very little wrong with it, but I can't really give anything like truly a 10 out of 10. Like, you know, this,
yeah,
it doesn't exist really.
Yeah, there's definitely a couple hiccups. Like I'm not saying episode 4 was the worst. I'm just saying it. I could see how it wasn't the strongest because it was like a kind of like side story.
Yeah,
but so is Aurora's story, like having Storm regain her powers. But that's what happens in the comics too. Like, you know, you also have Motendo. You have like it really depends on what kind of like person you are. Like what do you like in terms of the X-Men? Do you want to see the weird and villains like Mojo? Like, do you want to see that kind of stuff? I sure as hell do, because it's wacky. Like
how deep do you want to go down the rabbit hole, basically, you know?
Exactly.
And some people don't want to go that deep, you know, so I can kind of understand. But like I think like the whole Jubilee thing, you know, I've kind of said this at the start, you know, I don't really care about the character. But by the end of the show, I was kind of a little more interested in her. I think they did a better telling of the Jubilee story throughout the other episodes with Sunspot and stuff like that. Like they kind of, their story kind of became a little more interesting as the show went on, when you found out that he was kind of becoming an X-Men by the end of it. Like, you know, he's wearing an X-Men uniform by the end of the show, which is cool. That he's kind of
because he's Sunspot, right?
Yeah, he's not like ashamed of his powers or anything like that. He's not hiding anymore. I thought that was really cool. And then like Jubilee, I presume, again, I know nothing about the character except for the X-Men show, so like, you know, she might be fucking a badass in the comic books by now, but I don't know. So my guess is that she's probably going to learn to fly at some point, like, because they kind of alluded to that. So, and like, I think even who was she fighting at the end? Was it Magneto, or I can't remember who she was oh sorry, when she was fighting Bastion, and like he's like, what are you gonna do, like firework me to death? And I was just like, yeah, like what does she do? Like her powers seem kind of stupid, like, so. But I kind of felt myself kind of wanting to know more about the character as it was going on. I thought they kind of told the story well, while kind of maybe backseating her a little bit. But yeah, it was cool. I enjoyed it. Yeah.
Like highly, like I feel like all the characters were portrayed in a very structured way. It didn't feel like they were focusing too much on one over the other. For the sake of like the relationship, of course, we're going to see a bit more of Cyclops and Jean, but like other than that, they still kind of went round robin and just kind of made sure everyone was doing all right.
Yeah.
So
yeah, big time.
Fucking like amazing. They cared about all the characters. They gave a shit about the story, and they showed how it's connected to everything. And that's what we needed.
It's such a massive, massive win for Marvel. You know, it doesn't really affect the MCU's performance right now, but I think it's just like, it's kind of a sigh of relief for me as a Marvel fan, just going like, okay, they can still do it. They can still pull the trigger. They can still wow us, like, you know. And I know for most people that are going to probably sit down in the cinema and watch Deadpool 3, I'm sure you're probably not, like, you know, the vast majority of people that are going to see that movie probably haven't watched this. So that might be the kind of saving grace for them. But for me, it's this show. This is the show that kind of was like, okay, Marvel still know what they're doing. Disney are putting out stuff that is great. You know, there's a lot of people saying, you know, oh, since Disney Plus came along, and you know, like they've kind of like fucking forgotten about who they are and all this stuff now, and you know, like the MCU is kind of fallen off and blah blah blah. But I think like this and a lot of the stuff that we know in the background that is coming, I think, you know, I think they're going to take another swing at greatness, and I think they might hit it as well. I really do. Like, there's a lot of cool shit coming up, and if they can get an animated series to hit this hard, I just pray that you can even, like, you know, with how good this show is, if Daredevil season, whatever you want to call it, the new show, if Daredevil Born Again is half as good as this show, we're onto a fucking home run, you know? Like, it's going to be amazing. If Deadpool 3 is like this show, which I think it could be as good as this, you know, that movie is going to be a box office success. It's going to be revitalizing the MCU in a massive way. I think we could be on to a couple of years, like 2025, 26. I think are going to be like big winners for us, like as Marvel fans. I think, you know, this podcast is going to be popping off. Like, I think we're going to be having a lot of really cool shit to talk about. Like, I really do. You know, the last couple of years have been tough. You know, they really have. Like, you know, as a Marvel fan, it's been tough to sit and watch some of these projects and talk about them and not get too angry, not get too upset, or not get too emotional about a lot of these things. But yeah, I think we're doing a 180 now. I think we're coming back from the darkness. Like, I really do.
I really hope so, man. It'll be a really nice change of pace.
Yeah.
Just as a quick side story, did you know that there was going to be an animated Daredevil series?
No. When was this in talks?
It was in talks right before they decided to do a live action Daredevil with Ben Affleck.
Okay.
And
yeah, look, I can kind of understand because again, he was in the '94 Spider-Man show for a couple of episodes, and I really liked those episodes. I thought they were really cool. I thought the character was really cool, and that was all I kind of knew of Daredevil back then as a kid. Like, was just him showing up as Spider-Man. I was like, oh, this guy's blind and all. That's kind of cool.
Mhm.
Yeah, look, I think it would have worked. Like, and like, you know, I don't really like the Ben Affleck movie. I think it had some really cool elements to it. Me as an Irish person, I hated seeing Colin Farrell as Bullseye. It was just so bad. Like, it just kind of ruined the movie for me. I loved their Kingpin. I thought he was a badass. You know, there's like some really cool scenes with him in it. Like, I was like, this is fucking amazing. And like Ben Affleck, you know, I thought he did great. I thought the suit looked cool. You know, there's a lot of pluses in there. But just as at the time, it was a flop for me. Just I couldn't get over Colin Farrell. Like, I just couldn't get past it. It was so fucking stupid. Like, the first scene again, like me being a young Irish lad and seeing an Irish guy in like a Marvel movie for the first time, and the first time you see him, he's like in a pub sculling pints. I was like, oh lads, no, don't do this to us. Don't like stereotype us like this. Come on. And like he's playing darts and he's hitting the bullseye every time. I'm like, this is cheesy as fucking hell. Like, it was so bad, man. Like, my Irish heart was bleeding, bro. I couldn't stand it. Like, it was just awful. But Daredevil as a character, you know, we obviously it evolved to the Netflix show, which in my opinion to this day is still the best comic book TV ever. It's the best comic book TV show. Nothing has beaten it yet. I pray nothing ever does. Obviously I'd love to see that level of TV again, but I just don't think it's going to be topped. It was just almost perfect again. So good. But yeah, look, we'll see.
I was hoping Moon Knight would at least compete, but it really let me down.
I think if Moon Knight, and I think we spoke about this last time we were live, but I think if Moon Knight was made today, I think it would be a much better show. I think they still had the kind of restrictions in place and they couldn't really go where they needed to go. You know, they didn't have him like beating people senseless. Like, you know, I know the trailer like showed him beating that like demon in the bathroom or whatever, but like, yeah. When you saw it in the show, when you saw it in the trailer, it felt powerful. You're like, oh shit, this guy's like, he's like the Batman of the MCU. He's like kicking the fuck out of people and all. And I remember thinking to myself, like, oh shit, this could be really cool. And I was like, this is on Disney Plus. I was like, what? But then when it actually happened in the episode, it was kind of just like, nah, whatever. It just got it was kind of built up to be something that it really wasn't. And the show just kind of felt to me like it had a lot of handcuffs on and it was just really restricted. Whereas I think if it was made now today, you have the Punisher showing up at the two and maybe kicking the shit out of people together and it'd be great and Blade would be there and then, you know, there'd be so much cool shit happening. I just think if they did do another season of it, I think they could probably execute it a lot better than what they did.
Yeah, maybe refine things, go to New York, just kind of set up the midnight mission and just vampires.
Yeah, bro. I don't think that they can introduce vampires to the MCU without Blade. You know, I think that's where like vampires are kind of going to be Blade's like story. But then if they were to introduce it in Blade, and then it's like, oh well, actually vampires have been here the whole time, and then like Moon Knight comes in and starts like hunting them as well. That'd be just beautiful, in my opinion. I think that'd be fantastic.
I was actually thinking the other way. I was thinking that like we could totally have the vampires come in, but like mid-season or even like if you were to make it into a movie, like midway, Blade just drops in and then you just have like a duo film for the time being. And then he goes off and then you have your next movie being Blade.
Yeah. Well, like I suppose he was technically he has been shown in the MCU already. He was at the end of the Eternals, but um, yeah, I don't know. That doesn't really count.
Just
But
dep-
like, yeah, I don't
just
know if I want.
depends.
I like what you're saying, and I think it will be a cool idea. But I just don't know if they're going to pull the full blown pull the trigger on vampires in a project that isn't Blade. I just don't think that's going to happen. But it easily could happen.
Right. Yeah, but like I totally understand what you're saying. I just think that's very restrictive. Like it's not like vampires aren't just tied to one thing. Did you know Jubilee became a vampire?
No.
Yep. Eventually she
I
becomes a vampire.
I know nothing about Jubilee, but I think vampires were referenced in an MCU project already. I can't remember what it was. There was a reference to vampires already, and I'm like, they're building it up. They're building it up. Here we go. Like this is it. They're going to introduce it. But
dude, all the monsters exist in the Marvel universe. Like it's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to kind of keep it in Marvel as well. Did you see the whole marketing thing around Agatha? The Agatha All Along thing?
I'm disappointed in them. Like
now, I saw a few people talking it up, and they were like, like this is brilliant. It's marketing genius, and I'm like, is it, bro? Like, is it really? Like, it's fucking stupid, man. And I'm sorry, like, for anybody who's excited about the Agatha show, I apologize, but I probably, if I wasn't doing this podcast, I might even skip it. I might not even watch it. But I think is that where Sacha Baron Cohen's coming in as Mephisto officially? Like, so I'm like, I want to watch it for Mephisto. Like, I don't want to watch it for Agatha. Like, I don't give a shit about the Agatha character at all. But like, I do remember thinking, like, as it was happening, they kept changing the name of the show. And I remember thinking, like, why are they keep changing the name of the show? And then, like, I actually missed a couple of the last names that it was called. I think the last one that I saw was like Darkhold Diaries, and I was like, the fuck? I was like, the Vampire Diaries. I'm like, it's getting a bit on the nose here. Like, what's going on? And like some of the last names, like they were ripping it out of like Lion the Witch in the Wardrobe, and all. I was just like, what the fuck? And then it's like, it was Agatha All Along, and they like it's her laughing on stage. It's like, that's terrible, bro. That's I don't think that's good marketing at all. Like, I think it's just stupid. Like, but
it's the dumbest thing you can do.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't like it, clearly they're not going to be serious with Agatha at all. And to be completely honest, I don't care. Like you and I know you for a fact, and I don't care about Agatha at all. It's just, yes, that was a cool moment, but like you really changed the character out to be this kind of villainous person when in the comics she actually helps Wanda. Like it's just so weird that you make her the villain. I don't think that they had a proper villain for Wanda at all, which like to me is just kind of weird. Like, yeah, like maybe you don't, but Wanda's kind of her own villain. You could have just made it so that like maybe a doppelganger of herself was like trying to take control of the Hex. Like, it didn't have to be Agatha. Agatha could have been there just to help her understand her powers more and to like really tap into the chaos magic. And like, I understand that there was like a Doctor Strange was going to be involved and whatnot, and that they pulled the plug on that. But like you kind of ruined the essence of these two characters having such respect for each other that they're willing to help. It's just like not caring about the storyline and only taking sources and being like, let's change it to this, really fucks things up. And to see that they're doing this logo for Agatha, it's calling Agatha All Along, Agatha the Lion in the something wardrobe. Like they don't know what the fuck they're doing. If they're changing the logo this much, this is going to be a bomb.
Yeah, well, they think that the whole kind of play on the whole thing was that it was Agatha all along. Like she is fucking around in breaking the fourth wall, and it was her changing the name of the show. That's the joke. And it's like, bro, it's not even funny. Like, I'm sorry.
No.
Like, it's like, so what? Agatha can break the fourth wall now with like Deadpool and She-Hulk and shit. It's like, it's just, it was stupid, man. I don't think it was funny. I think they actually maybe were officially like trying to change the name of the show a couple of times, and then they were like, this is becoming a bit of a joke. Let's make it an actual joke. Let's make it that it is Agatha actually doing it. Because in the show, she's behind the camera and stuff. Like she was like directing episodes of WandaVision, like technically and stuff. So I don't know if they're actually going to go full blown, like let's make Agatha a fourth wall breaker, but I don't know. Just it seemed like a bit of a trying to put out a fire, like by them maybe changing the name of the show twice and then going, actually, lads, what the hell are we doing here? Like, okay, let's actually make it a joke that she's controlling it. It just seemed it seemed a bit desperate to me. Like I wasn't a big fan of it at all. The best thing that I can hope for out of that show is Sacha Baron Cohen showing up as Mephisto and maybe an Agatha or maybe like a Wanda cameo or something. Like that is honestly the best thing that I can think of. And it would make sense as well. Obviously, a show around Agatha. The last time we see her, it's literally Wanda imprisoning her in the hex. So to me, it would make sense if Wanda maybe comes in and goes, look, yeah, you know, I've realized I was being a bit of a bitch. You're out of the hex, whatever. Go do whatever you got to do. So like, I think it would be a little weird if she didn't show up, but that is my kind of best hopes for the show. It's just two quick cameos. Like, so you know, I'm thinking like overall 5 out of 10. If we get there, happy days. Let's just move on. I honestly, there's a couple of things in the lineup that I think they probably should have just axed and just said, you know, fuck it, let's put the money somewhere else. And I think this show should have been one of them. It should have been one that just, they said, nah, good luck, see you later.
Yeah, because like
we don't need it.
Yeah, nobody cares. I really don't think anybody cares. Yeah,
there's a couple of people who are just like MCU kind of dick riders that are just gonna follow everything and just say everything is amazing no matter what and have no kind of criticism of it. And you know, I'm down to watch anything that Marvel put out. Like, I'm a sucker for it. Like, you know, they don't need to sell a movie to me. I'm gonna go see it anyway. You know, my ass is in that seat no matter what. Week one, I'm there. You know, that's fine. But if I don't like something, I'm not going to be afraid to say that I don't fucking like it. And, you know, there's been a lot of that on this podcast as well. And I think, you know, I've had people come to me kind of offline and say, look, you know, I really respect your opinion. You talk about shit where, you know, some people might be afraid to talk about it. And, you know, people have come to me and said, look, you know, yeah, fair play to you for calling Marvel out and saying that project was shit. Like, you know, some people I think are, maybe they're paid to maybe just give positive reviews or whatever. I don't know. I don't even want to go into speculating all that sort of shit. But I have no problem in saying something's crap. And if I like something, I have no problem saying I love it as well. Like, you know, and when I don't give a shit what anybody else thinks, you know, if you're here to listen to us, fantastic. But I've got my opinions and that's it. Like, you know, so this show, yeah, I don't really care. I don't like the character. I don't care about the character. And yeah, if there's a couple of good cameos in this, that's really all I can hope for to come out of this show.
Yeah.
Yep. What do you make of Nick Cage getting a Spider-Man Noir live action TV show on Amazon?
I think that'll work out pretty well. It just really depends on whether or not he's going to keep the suit on, because that's the whole point.
Well, I think Nick is getting quite old to be jumping around as the Spider-Man, so I think that they're going to be relying on, you know, stunt doubles and stuff like that. But I think, yeah, like we didn't see him once take his mask off, so we don't know what that version of Peter looks like at all. So is he just going to be doing voice work? Like, is it a Nicolas Cage voiceover and it's a live action dude, like stunt guy in a suit? That'd be pretty fucking cool.
I would love that.
I love Nick Cage's voice. And if we can get like a young guy in a suit doing all the flips and being like a cool Spider-Man, but we just have Nick Cage narrating the show, I think that is a fucking home run, bro. And the fact that they have as well the creators of Into the Spider-Verse actually working on this too is a massive, massive sigh of relief as well. Because I heard Spider-Man Project, Amazon, Sony. I'm like, this isn't really adding up here. I'm like, what's going on? But then I hear, okay, Nick Cage, yes, and the creators of Into the Spider-Verse are working on this too. I'm like, oh baby, I'm excited. Like that got me pumped. That got me pumped. And I'm a Nick Cage fan, so you know, Cage can do whatever he wants. He's a king, in my opinion.
Dude, I 100% agree. Even in terrible movies that he's been in, it just makes it much more fun to watch him. Even if it's like not that great. Like, you've seen The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, right?
I'll be honest, I watched about 2/3 of it and I had to turn it off for some reason. I can't remember. I think my baby was very young at the time and I think she was kicking up a fuss and I had to go help out and I couldn't come back to it. And I just haven't got around to watching the end of it. But the parts that I saw, I loved. Like, I thought it was hilarious. Yeah, I thought it was really good. And Pedro's fantastic in it as well. So
yeah, it was great synergy.
Yeah, really, really good. Really good.
Yeah. So like I 100% agree that like it should just be a narration. If it's noir, that's kind of like the style of it, is that you have, you know, the seedy kind of city, black and white. You have the rain falling. He's in his trench coat with the hat, and he's like, tough times are coming, and stuff like that. Like just things, little lines that you say to kind of like showcase that things are dark and whatnot. And this, I don't care if it's dark or if it's silly, but I just wanted to have that noir feel.
Yeah, I want it to be like Sin City, but a Spider-Man show.
Yeah.
Or whatever,
just kind of,
Sin City and Spider-Man mix up. Like, I think that'd be fucking sweet. He's like a detective Spider-Man. Like,
dude, how fucking cool would it be? Is like he walks into his detective office and like you see MJ on the thing with her leg over, and she's like, "About time you came around." Where you been, Tiger?
Yeah. It's so funny. And the completed Rubik's Cube, and it's the only color thing in the universe. Like, that'd be so cool, dude. I'd love that. Yeah, it'd be so nice. I heard that they're doing potentially a Spider-Gwen movie, like Sony are doing it. And I don't know how I feel about this one, because it's like, it's a Sony movie. So, Sony live action has been horrendous. We all know this,
Yeah.
And it would really depend. I think the only way that I would be really, truly excited about it would be if it was actually the Gwen that died in like Andrew's Gwen. Like if it was her, if they actually cast her to play Gwen. I don't know. I kind of feel like if they did like a whole new take, they'd kind of fumble it a bit. Whereas if they brought like Emma Stone in, like she's a fucking superstar at the moment. Like we know she's a great actress. Like she just won an Oscar. Like if they got her in and it was somehow tied to Andrew's universe, I think it would spark a lot of interest for people. Whereas if it was just a brand new story, it's kind of, have we got another Venom on our hands here? Like, like it's just, ugh, I don't know. it's very, very sketchy for me. Like,
Yeah, it's kind of, it also is kind of rough because in Across the Spider-Verse, we see that, or they talk about her past in Across the Spider-Verse to where it was her fighting Peter, not knowing that he was the Lizard.
Yeah.
And then like thinking that like her dad saw that Peter was dead in her arms and thought that she was the villain and whatnot. And so like that kind of sparks that vigilante kind of feel to it. If they can recreate that live action, that's great. If they're going to kind of press on past that, that's even better, because I think then, we kind of leave that set in stone for her universe and just kind of follow forward with that. They did that for like Homecoming, where he had already been Spider-Man.
True.
So like it's fine if you just continue off from there, and then we just kind of get a bit of an adventure from there and see what she deals with in her universe.
I think if the show is based on the Into the Spider-Verse Gwen, happy days. Great. Fantastic. But if they're doing it live action, which I hear they are, then I'm kind of like, it kind of scares me a little more, because it's like, are they going to start again? Are they going to potentially fuck it up? Are we getting like a Venom style movie where it's just not going to be great? Or like, and that's why I'm saying like, I'd nearly like it just linked to something that we already know, to maybe just have a bit of a safety net, that it is like the Gwen that we know, like, which is a different version of her or something. Like, I don't know. I'm very skeptical about it. I need to, obviously, a lot more information on it. I need a casting, I need a storyline, all that sort of stuff first. But just on paper, hearing it, I'm just like, is this another Craven? Is this another fucking Morbius movie? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
well, and that's the thing. Is like the funny way I see about it is like, even though those movies were bad, we could just say like, oh, those were just in different universes. We don't care about that. Like, we could literally just put it off on the side if we wanted to be like big sweaty fans about that.
Yeah, but Gwen is such a great character. Like, and I'd love a good movie with her. Like, so there's a couple of ways that they can pull that off. I just don't know if Sony are going to actually do it. So that's what scares me.
Right? Yeah, and it's just like they've hit nothing. They've been swinging and missing, and it just feels so horrible. When Marvel's involved, it does get a little bit of zazz, and it's not like perfect, but it's fucking great.
Yeah, like I really like Marvel and Sony working together for the Tom Holland stuff. Yeah. I'm a big fan of the Tom Holland stuff, and the fact that they went as far as doing the multiverse shit in No Way Home and bringing in Andrew and Toby and stuff like that was, as a fan, watching that build up, the whole leak culture if you were involved in that side of it, like with the Andrew stuff, and like that was just, as a fan, fantastic. And then like getting to see the finished product and seeing them all together on the screen, it was fucking brilliant. It really was. As a fan, it was such an experience. I think personally, it's the best experience that I've had since Infinity War and Endgame. Like that No Way Home is kind of next in line for me as like in my top rankings of the movies, because it was just such a special time for me as a Spider-Man fan, just getting to see the Spider-Man I grew up with, like, you know, on the screen again. You know, I have a signed picture of Toby from Stan Lee sitting in my sitting room above my TV in my family room. Like, you know, that's how much I love those movies. And just even seeing Toby back on the big screen, I was like, wow, like that print that I have now is going to just become so much more valuable because Toby's back. You know, it's just so good, dude. But yeah, like I think, you know, Sony have put out a lot of shit, but they're able to do good stuff when they've got good people involved. And that's why I like the Nick Cage project, because we know the animated dudes are hitting home run after home run. And if they're going to be involved in doing some live action, it should be good. Now, whether it is or not, I don't know, but
Yeah.
I think it should be good. I'm a lot less skeptical about that than I am about the Spider-Gwen project. But if I find out that the Spider-Gwen project is being helped out by the same guys as the Nick Cage project and it's all linked together, maybe I'm like, whoa, okay, hang on a second. They're evolving this into the Spider-Verse, like multiverse, the Spider-Verse. They're evolving it into like live action stuff as well, which would be fucking sick. And obviously we know that, you know, Toby and Andrew have been kind of referenced, and even Andrew even appeared on screen in the Spider-Verse. So we know that that's how in depth the Spider-Verse is actually going. So maybe it will be great. I really hope so. But I just pray it's not on the level of like Venom and Carnage and stuff like that, because that stuff is tough watching, bro. Tough watching.
It was so bad because it just felt like they were reaching so hard for everything to just kind of like fulminate together. Yeah. But it just never amounted to the way that they designed it, because they changed the way these characters interact with one another so drastically. And it was so like spearheaded towards one design, which was, I love this person, we're going to get married kind of situation, or like we're meant to be together. And it just, I can't even remember the story that well because of the fact that like, like they broke out, they went to go get married, but they also wanted to kill people, but I don't remember who. I just know that Venom and Eddie needed to stop him. And then
yeah, I don't even remember. I think Carnage captured his ex-girlfriend at the end of the movie, and he had to go and kill Carnage and save her.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and then we get like the weirdest way to introduce Toxin. Which like it's just a little teaser kind of situation. They just like Carnage doesn't give a fuck about like any of this stuff, and they give it to this like just Cletus Cassidy, just not even that terrifying.
Yeah.
What do you think about it?
I know, bro. Like that's honestly, that movie is a one and done for me. I've watched it once. I will never watch it again. And the first Venom movie, I think I've watched once, and the first one I didn't hate as much as the second one, but I still have no desire to go back and watch that movie either. So
the first one was actually pretty good, like having all the different symbiotes like actually like go up against each other. Or actually, I think we only had one, but it's like at least we had another. But that's the problem, is that they always only do one. When you have multiples, why not just have multiples? Why not have this great like understanding of oneself, melding minds together, say like becoming one with Venom, and essentially like being one of the most powerful like symbiotes ever, even if you were considered an underdog.
Look how good Activision did with the Venom story in the second Spider-Man game. Like they brought in loads of symbiotes and stuff, and it was really well told. It was fucking great. Loved it.
Yep.
Absolutely loved it. Yep. They confirmed this week that the Daredevil show is only going to be 9 episodes for season 1, but they also confirmed a couple of days later that season 2 is going to start filming this fall. So before the first season's out, they're actually starting to film season 2, which I think is a fantastic sign, because they've got really good confidence in what they've made so far, that they're going ahead and pulling the trigger on production on the next season. So that, in my opinion, is another sigh of relief. So, MCU, great job, guys. You're winning me back. Let's go. Keep going. I heard Spider-Man 4 as well. I don't know if you saw this, but they're saying that they want to release Spider-Man 4 next year, 2025, but they haven't shot a single frame of Spider-Man 4 yet. So that kind of scares me in a way, because I'm thinking to myself, like, I kind of feel like I know a lot about the making of movies and stuff like that. And I really feel like, they probably need to be shooting a movie 18 months before it ends up on the big screen, because they need to probably spend 3, 4, 5 months shooting it, maybe doing a couple of reshoots. Then it's got to be edited and, final cut, all the different cuts, first cut, second cut, final cut, whatever. And there's a lot involved, especially with like a Spider-Man movie with like CGI and all that sort of thing. Now, maybe, there's a couple of things that this kind of tells me. I think the story might be, there's two versions of Spider-Man 4 kind of bouncing around at the moment. There's a version where it's very heavily based in the multiverse and, Andrew and Toby coming back and it very much being a multiverse story. There's a second script that's going around where it's just Tom by himself. He's figuring it all out. He's getting a part-time job. He's trying to go to college and he's got like the no tech suit. He's just being Spider-Man. It's kind of like the origin story as we know it, And I kind of feel like if they haven't shot a frame of it yet and they want to release it next year, I kind of feel like they're more so going for the second route rather than the big multiverse story that continues on, where it's just like, mad shit happening and multiple Spider-Man coming in and, maybe it being a prequel to the next Avengers movie, which is going to be then lead into Secret Wars and stuff like, I kind of feel like they're going to go down that route rather than doing a big multiversal story if they're kind of looking to release the movie in a year's time.
Well, from what's speculated, Peter will have the suit that he had at the end of Spider-Man No Way Home.
Yeah.
And it's going to be set about a year after the events of No Way Home. So it'll be nice to have a range of things that he's been doing, just like you said. He'll be at MIT. He'll be studying. He'll probably be working on his powers as well as like enhancing his technology. Mm-hmm. It's going to be quite an interesting story, depending on what direction they decide to go with it. I really think that they should bring in Madam Web, but it's just a different version because it's, of course, like when it's Sony, it's a completely different universe.
I think they've fucked themselves now. I don't think they can do Madam Web now.
It's fucked up because Madam Web is such a secondary character that they never had to make a movie of it at all.
is Madam Web a Nexus being? Like, there's only one, like she oversees the entire Spider-Verse, so it technically wouldn't make sense if they brought in a recast and did it again. Am I right in thinking that? I think she's a Nexus being, bro. I think so.
God, if that's the case, then they just
that's what I mean.
Shoot themselves.
That's why I think like the movie was such a fail and they shot themselves in the foot. I have heard as well rumor that Sydney Sweeney's been cast as Black Cat and that she's going to be like a love interest to Peters in Spider-Man 4, which would be fantastic to see, because I personally don't like the idea of Zendaya coming back. I don't mind her coming back down the line, if they break the spell and she kind of remembers who she is or whatever, but if she comes back in straight away and like, she starts remembering Peter and stuff like that, I kind of think it's just a little rushed and it's a little stupid, and it's kind of defeats the payoff at the end of No Way Home, because it hits so fucking hard at the end of that movie that Tom Holland's Spider-Man has nobody. He's completely alone in the world. It's just such a hard thing to take. Like, and me as a parent, like, I like one of my fears as a parent now, like, and I think, I don't know if this happens for everybody, but I actually have like a fear now that, something happens to me and I leave my daughter in the world with nobody else. Like, like that's just something that I fear now as a parent, like, and I kind of think like, what happens when I'm gone? Like, who takes care of them? Like, I really hope that, all this shit, like, and watching that movie, I'm kind of thinking like, as a parent now, I look at that and think, Jesus Christ, like I can only imagine as a parent how it would feel, but like imagine being on the other side of it, like being that person, like being Peter, who's just completely alone, has no money, nothing. Like May never really had anything, like, she lived in a rented apartment, not as if she's leaving him a big inheritance or anything like that. Like, he's fucking got nothing. So it's a real scary thought, and I kind of that's what I love about the end of that movie. Now, it's why that movie is rated so high in my opinion, is that I think they really fucking nailed it. by kind of doing a bit of a mixed up origin telling of Spider-Man, but making it kind of come full circle and make sense by the end. That full circle moment was just like, wow. Like, I was blown away when I saw it. I was like, oh my God, yes,
really
yes. This is Peter. This is the Peter we know. Like, yeah, it was brilliant. It was brilliant. So I really hope they don't like kind of go back on it. You know, that's why I'd like to see maybe he gets a new girlfriend. Like maybe it is Black Cat, and you know, then maybe, you know, in Spider-Man 5, MJ starts remembering a bit, and there's a bit of a love triangle going on because, like, you know, he's got feelings for Felicia now, but MJ's starting to remember, and she's his true love and stuff. Like, that should be cool. That'd be really cool.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see where that goes.
That'd be fucking fantastic. I would love to see that. Like, love triangles are always fun in terms of these movies because it's always a fucked up moment. Like,
yeah,
like it's even shown in Invincible. It's like how do you really have a relationship with someone who can't fly or be as powerful as you when you have someone who's clearly having feelings for you on the other spectrum, who clearly can kind of match your speed, be who you are, and, you know, basically supports you in the same way. So like to have Black Cat, I don't know. I actually don't remember. Does she have any powers in particular, or is she just a very acrobatic character? Is she kind of like
she gets abilities somehow, but I can't remember how she gets them.
Yeah,
she starts off as human, but then I think she does develop some powers kind of as they go on, and she becomes kind of, I don't know if she becomes like a super soldier in a way or something like that. I can't really remember, but I do believe she does get powers down the line.
Right. So like
she becomes like very powerful in the comic books, and that's not a version of her I've ever seen, but I have heard that she becomes like quite powerful in the comics.
Yeah. So, you know, that makes it even harder, you know, like essentially, you know, going back to the whole like Jean Grey, Scott Summers, Wolverine kind of situation, even though Wolverine has feelings for Jean, and Jean is kind of like had shown feelings to Wolverine at some point. Like it's hard to beat Cyclops in that sense. Like Cyclops is a whole different being. And I forgot to tell you, like telekinetic women in Marvel always have the hots for Scott.
Nice.
And the reason why is because Scott is always doing math in his head.
Okay.
He's constantly his brain is so like he's so fucking smart and so calculating that there's no room in his head necessarily to like have just standard feelings like lust or whatnot. Like it's just these like, yes, he has feelings for Jean, but it's like there's so many different things that are going on in his head in terms of calculation algorithms and like outcomes, because he has to constantly think about his optic blast, like the amount he's going to output, where he's going to shoot it, at what point is he going to shoot. Like he's so fucking smart. And apparently the like telekinetic or psionic women, they just want to eat his fucking brain. Essentially, they're like, this is fucking juicy. There's nothing in there that makes me feel horrified. I love this man.
Love it.
So like that's why Emma Frost has the hots for him. Like it's just this moment of like, I could read his mind, but there's nothing creepy or weird or like it's just all these calculations or anything. So it's like it's just a cool concept. So like that's kind of what we're seeing. Like if there's this love triangle between MJ and like Black Cat, that would be fucking fantastic, because Black Cat understands what Peter's going through because she's always on the move. It's just a different outcome, which I'm absolutely for. But I wanted to go back really quick on the Madam Web situation. She is not a Nexus being. Okay. Which I kind of figured, because there was a comic rendition of what the live action movie is based on, where she is kind of like in the trench coat and she's able to walk and whatnot. It's kind of like beforehand. That's an alternate universe. In the real universe, she's already like in a wheelchair. She's, you know, she doesn't have, I think she's blind and she's in a wheelchair already. And then like, I think her husband, helps her build like that kind of like throne for her. So that she can kind of like link into the network of different spiders. And so like that I think that they could still do that. And I think that they should totally do that with, oh my God, what's her name? She was Laurie Strug in Halloween. What? No, it's Jamie. Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah.
100%
like
think
her
that
to play an older version.
100%. Like she's got the looks for it. She could totally like pull it off.
She's a great actress as well. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I don't really hold Dakota Johnson in very high esteem now, to be honest. She's yet to wow me on the screen, let's just say.
Yeah, but I think the fact that Sony or whoever decided to build up this movie only wanted women who were like beautiful. I think that's kind of what ruined it. Because yes, these characters do look beautiful in the comics, but you also need them to be like capable and self-sufficient, and none of them were. Everyone was just horrible.
Yeah, it's rough, man. It's rough.
Do you want to
go on? I don't really want to talk about that Madam Web movie anymore.
No. Yeah, no, I'm going past that. Do you want to know the list of Nexus Beings?
Yeah, sure. The listeners might want to hear it.
So everyone knows Wanda Maximoff, Scarlet Witch is one of them. There's Lore, which is another version of Wanda. There's Elaine, which is, I think, a relative of Lore. You have Merlin. Fucking nice. Merlin. This is a guy named Size Neg from Earth 74113. You have Kang the Conqueror from 6311. You have Leonard Tippett, which I have no idea who the hell that is. Franklin Richards of Earth 772. Vision of Earth 90110. Jean Grey of Earth 9250. Odin Borson of Earth 9260. So like these are all characters that like they all have their nexus points. They are all essentially themselves in every possible reality. You have Queen Elizabeth I.
What the fuck?
Of Earth 78912. Napoleon Bonaparte of Earth 9008. Abraham Lincoln of Earth 9002.
These are all just piss takes from the comics over the years. Like, that's so funny, dude.
And the last one is John F. Kennedy from Earth 9007.
Fuck's sake, man. I was going to make a joke there, but I better not.
No.
Oh, man. Jesus Christ. That's funny. But, like, isn't... I'm trying to think. Like, you said Jean. I presume that's, like, Dark Phoenix?
Like Jean Grey? Phoenix, like? 9250, Jean Grey. She was a member of the X-Vampires.
So it's like a vampire Jean Grey?
Yep. Essentially.
That's cool. Yeah, that's great. I love that.
It's
yeah, it's cool, man. It's cool. I knew Franklin was going to be on the list because he can literally, like, I've been hearing about how like powerful he is in the future. Like, he can just like change the universe. Like, he can just at the click of his fingers. Like, he's a crazy level mutant. Like, he is like
stupid powerful.
Yeah, like stupid, like ridiculous powers. Like,
I love that Merlin is one.
Yeah, it's funny. I was expecting the list to be a little more epic, but like I think half of them are like jokes, like that. They're just kind of, let's make Elizabeth like a fucking Nexus being or whatever. Like, seems kind of stupid. But did you see they cast Galactus?
Yes,
in the MCU. Jeez, I don't know why I couldn't say that. Galactus, yeah, in the MCU they cast him. But like, he's like a really good voice actor. I don't really know him from a lot. I know his face, and I know I've seen him and stuff, but I can't think offhand anything I know him from. But I think he did like the voice of God in something, like, and I think that's probably what got him this role, like, because his voice is just incredible. Yeah, I think it's an on the fucking like ball casting by the MCU, which, to be fair to them, I say this all the time, they rarely miss. They rarely miss. Norman Reedus, rumor has it, is that he's going to be appearing as Ghost Rider as well in some upcoming project. I can't remember. I don't really like. I had a conversation about this on Discord. He's one of those actors that, for me, I kind of can't see him as anything but Daryl. And I know he was in Blade when he was much younger and stuff, so technically he's part of the Marvel universe already. But I just can't get past Daryl from The Walking Dead. So I'm going to see him in the MCU and I'm going to be like, oh, it's Daryl. Daryl's here. Daryl's on fire. Like, I don't know. I know that might be a little bit unfair to say, but I don't know. For me, it's just, it'll be tough to kind of he's going to need to put on a really good performance and not just be Daryl on screen for me to be like, this guy's great, you know. So I hope he's very different. Is all I'll say. Otherwise, I'm just going to be thinking that, like, you know, like I know Keanu, for example, is an amazing actor, and like we've seen him in loads of stuff over the years. But if he was to come into something and like be looking and acting like John Wick, I'm just going to be like, it's John Wick in Star Wars or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, so I know Keanu kind of is a bit one dimensional in a way, but at the same time, like I do believe him to be different characters as well at the same time. So I know he should probably fall into this rule that I'm saying for Norman, but he's a bit different. Look, we'll have to see.
I mean, Keanu's been in a few roles here and there. I think he like did a short role with forgot their names. Jack Nicholson and God, I forgot her name. She was in Godfather. It was, I think, Something's Gotta Give. I think he was in that. I could have sworn, and he did a pretty good job in that one. I think he has range. It's just he's been typecast.
Exactly, yeah. And I worry that like the typecast actors coming into the MCU, I don't know if it's gonna like help or hurt it. Like, you know, that's kind of what I think. Like, you know, and Norman's kind of the same. Keanu, if he was to come in, it'd be kind of the same. Like, there's a couple of actors, like, and I know there's talks about The Rock coming in as Apocalypse. What do you think about The Rock as Apocalypse?
I think he might be.
Is it just going to be like Black Adam all over again? It's just The Rock in a costume sort of thing, like, you know. I think if they're going to do it, like, really please change his appearance, like, you know.
Yeah.
And like I think obviously we got Oscar Isaac as Apocalypse for the X-Men movie. A lot of people probably don't even know, Jesus, that was actually Oscar Isaac, like the dude who played Moon Knight, you know. So
I think he did a pretty good job. Like, it just the movie was just kind of, it felt a little rushed, but like the scenes that you see with like with Magneto in the middle, like just those were good. Like,
yeah, they're some of Michael Fassbender's best scenes. And it's just a shame that they're in that movie rather than like in First Class, where it would have just been even better, you know. But I love those scenes, man, where his daughter dies in the woods and he just kills all of them, and he's like, "Is this what you want me to be?" You know, like, it's so powerful, bro. Powerful,
right? And Michael Fassbender did such an amazing job portraying Magneto that way. Like, that's exactly what he would say. That's exactly how he would want to like be at this point, because everything was taken from him at that point. Exactly. And it's just, it's so fucking good. You have like, it's really not a terrible movie. I think it's just, there were some things in it that were just done a bit poorly to make it not as memorable, but the fight scenes, the action sequences, the infiltration of Charles's mind, it's just so good. You see like Jean coming in to help Charles like get out of it. There's these moments where like Charles is so downtrodden that he's not himself anymore. He's constantly trying to suppress himself so that he doesn't have his telekinetic powers anymore, or like he can't read people's minds. And it's just like this such a downtrodden character that like you don't see that often in movies, except for like I would say The Dark Knight Rises. Like when you saw that like Bruce Wayne was kind of hidden in his mansion for so long. He was kind of growing a beard. He didn't want to go out. He was having such a hard time because of all the things that he lost, and he was trying his best to like maintain himself, but everything was just still kind of like it's so hard. And it's things like that really show like that. So even though these are mutants, they're still people.
Facts.
That's so fucking good.
Yeah, I think like after Days of Future Past, I think that franchise just started to dip a little bit in quality, but I think there was still some amazing stories there. Like I was only recently watching a video. I can't remember who. I can't share it anybody, but there was somebody breaking down the kind of timeline of Wolverine, and you know it gets a bit confusing, even as like I would call myself a pretty big fan, like, but that timeline got a little confusing, especially after Days of Future Past when Logan technically changed the timeline. And this guy explained it really well, that after Days of Future Past, you know, when Logan gets picked up at the end, he gets picked up by a younger version of Stryker. So then when he gets the adamantium, it hadn't been as tested as well as it was when he was in X2, like when he was at his kind of peak. So when the timeline gets reset, Logan pretty much kind of kills himself basically because he puts himself into the hands of a younger, less experienced striker. So when he gets the adamantium put on his body, it's not as well done. It's not as tested. And then that kind of then eventually leads to his death in Logan. But that's why he's kind of got the adamantium poisoning towards the end, and he's aging rapidly and so on. And beforehand, I never really thought about it too much, but like the storylines just got a bit weird. Like, you know, when you see Logan in Apocalypse, like he's like, it's like he's been kind of tested on, and like he's kind of just escaped Stryker's hold, and he's a completely different character. But it's kind of confusing if you've grown up with a different version of Logan, technically, you know, that you're at a new version of it. But I just don't think they kind of told that well. They kind of just dropped him in there as like a little cameo, but it just kind of confused everybody, I think. And then when we come around to Logan, it's like, okay, you know, he's been alive since the 1800s. Why have the last 20 years been so tough on him? It just didn't really make a lot of sense. But if he knew all of it, if it was all told like the way I just said it on screen, and it was clear as day, I think it would have made people maybe appreciate the later movies a lot more.
Yeah,
excluding Dark Phoenix, of course, because that movie was fucking awful.
Oh man, like
that was a rough fucking watch, bro. That was tough, and that was the death. That was the death of the Fox universe. Like that was it. It was over. Now, like we're only obviously we're seeing Deadpool and stuff now, so you know Ryan Reynolds kind of revitalized it a little bit, but like that universe died with that movie. Like in my opinion, now.
It was so rough, dude. What was it again? That was like the villain. Was it Aliens?
I don't even know.
It was fucking dumb.
I couldn't even tell you. I just remember being so upset watching it. And I remember laughing and thinking to myself, they've failed Dark Phoenix twice. And they did.
Twice.
Like, imagine, twice, bro. And imagine, right? Because X3 is not that bad. But they did Dark Phoenix. Like, I don't mind that movie at all, but a lot of people really didn't like it. A lot of people called it a failure. I actually like that movie. I'm going to put it out there. I think X3 is good. But imagine having the reputation of doing X3 poorly and doing the Phoenix bad, and then they bring out this movie and it's 10 times worse. You know, it's like, put the character to bed, guys. You don't know what you're doing. And maybe the MCU can do it a lot better. I'm sure they probably could. But yeah, like just stop with the fucking Dark Phoenix stuff. You can't do it in live action. And it is like, this is the evidence.
It was 100% like it's like, we have Phoenix. What should we do? Do Dark Phoenix. Didn't they do Dark Phoenix in the past already? Yeah, but maybe we could do it better. It's like, no, dude, just do Phoenix. Just have a movie and have a normal, like a villain that's so fucking powerful. And then like the Phoenix Force comes through and just fucking takes over and she becomes Phoenix. Cause like throughout the entire time, it's just Jean.
Yeah.
Like we're not really alluded to the fact that she would be Phoenix. Because there's two different Phoenixes. It's Phoenix and Dark Phoenix. Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Give us something else.
True. And just I did mention a bit of Deadpool, so I just wanted 2 quick little bullet points about Deadpool, and then we're gonna go because we're actually live 2 hours. I need to go to bed soon. I've got work in the morning. We're recording this on the 20th of May. Sorry, the 19th of May. Technically, it's 20th for me. It's after midnight, but I saw Ryan Reynolds posted today that the pre-sale tickets for Deadpool 3 are going on sale on the 20th. So make sure you grab your tickets.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Deadpool 3 tickets going on sale on the 20th. Grab your tickets, but please don't grab the tickets that I want. Thank you. And one last thing. So I know we were talking about it before. This potentially could be spoilers. I don't know how true this is, but there's been talks of Ben Affleck talking with Marvel about a potential role in the MCU. I read during the week that someone had said that his role actually could be in Deadpool 3, and his role could be not Daredevil, but Batman.
That would be sick.
Ben Affleck.
That would actually, yeah.
Could you imagine the balls of this, right? Ben Affleck coming into the MCU as Bruce Wayne / Batman / fucking Snyder verse. Could you imagine all the Snyderverse stands like seeing this and going, "Oh my god, Deadpool brought in Batman into the fucking MCU." Like, I genuinely think it's a bold enough move that it is something that Reynolds would try and do. And I love the rumor, and I pray that it's true, because could you imagine Ben Affleck shows up, people are going to be like, oh my God, is it somebody new? Is he playing a new character? Is it Daredevil again? No, it's fucking Batman. I think it'd be so good. It'd be so good. Imagine he introduces himself as Bruce Wayne. You'd be like, what? It'd be just fucking wild, bro.
Or they have a bit of a conversation, and then all of a sudden you hear like, Bruce, come on, let's go.
Yeah.
Whoa, what the fuck?
And he gets into like a swanky car, like he's in like a fucking 3-piece suit or something. Yeah, that'd be so cool. Like, I don't think they're obviously not going to be able to put a Batman suit on screen. Like, they're going to have to, just even I think if they say the word Batman, they're probably going to be in a lot of trouble. Like, but I think the rumor is that he's going to be playing Bruce Wayne, and it's going to be very obvious that it's Bruce Wayne, but they're going to probably, for legal reasons, not be able to say, hello, my name is Bruce Wayne,
Right.
Yeah, which I think is fucking brilliant. And it's just going to be, again, another kind of just star, like, just, gold star for Deadpool 3. I think we're really onto a winner here. Like, and I'm so excited. Yeah, get your fucking tickets. Get your tickets. I'm going to be ordering tickets for it when I wake up in the morning. Hopefully they're going to be live when I wake up. So yeah, I can't wait. Week 1, we're going to be reviewing the absolute shit out of it. And I remember saying to the dude who I had on the cast before, Sean Talks Movies, I know he said he wanted to come back for a Deadpool episode, so we could have a special guest for that week as well. Like, so I think it's going to be a really good cast that week. So guys, I'm going to leave it there. We're live 2 hours. It's usually about 30 minutes longer than we usually are live, but we weren't live last week, so we did have a good few bits to talk about. I had a whole list of stuff in front of me, and there's still a couple of topics on it, so maybe I'll save them for next week. But yeah, if you're new to the channel, make sure you drop a subscription, leave a like on the video, leave us a comment below if you're listening to us on a replay, and we'll catch you in the next one. Bye, guys.